And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My guest is Steve Bassett, political activist, advocate for UFO disclosure, executive director of the Paradigm Research Group, and the very first UAP lobbyist in Washington. He returned today to talk about the recent UAP Disclosure Fund briefing, the new Pope, and more. Stephen, welcome back. It's great to have you again.
It's nice to be with you as always.
Stephen, I talk to a lot of people, and I would say that you are the most beloved figure in ufology. Everybody loves you, seriously. Yeah, really. Everybody loves you. Everybody has great things to say about you, but quite a few of your peers do disagree with you on when disclosure is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
Why is that?
Well, because I've been a full-time activist on this for 30 years. I don't research. I don't go out and check out sighting reports or, do photographic analysis or try to find some materials to examine all that stuff. I mean, that's hard work. I don't do it. My only engagement is getting disclosure through political means, which means following all of the politics associated with it, and to the extent possible, which you can do now. I'm based in Washington. Hell, my office is 2 blocks from the White House, has been for some time. And so that's all I do. And I mean all. I no wife, no kids, no cats, no dogs. So very few people are able to put that level of exclusivity into their perspective. So I take a broad perspective. I don't get tied up in debates over this witness or this piece of evidence. I don't really care. The ET presence has been proven 20 times over. And so now we just need to get the political resolution. And so I have a perspective that they don't have. But I understand that they're frustrated. And I understand that after 78 years of a truth embargo, which is a rather remarkable accomplishment, that why not forever? But the more that my colleagues that think I'm wrong, the better, because when it happens, you realize the leverage, the power I have over these people. It'll be like they'll come up, oh, Steve, I'm so sorry. I doubted it. I couldn't believe it. It's all right. It's all right. It's all right. It's okay. No problem. Let's move forward, right? Now, donate to my Paradigm Research Group nonprofit. So that doesn't bother me. But this beloved thing, well, if it's true, I do feel already, I feel elevated. I feel cool. And thank you for that. Appreciate it.
I'm telling you like it is. Since you live in Washington and you have contact with people in the government that you may know more than your colleagues?
Then the colleagues in a certain area. In other words, and it's not like I have a lot of inside contacts. I don't. If you're an activist, insiders are not typically interested in dealing with you, but it's not the approach I've taken. Essentially, I have engaged the media, engaged the public, and try to get a broad perspective on where this can go and where it's going. And so because I'm exclusively doing that, I have a perspective that others simply don't have. It's not a question of how much or how little. It's a question of the prism you're looking through, right? And so to give you an example, this is a project I started, 2007, I think. On my website, paradigmresearchgroup.org. Hopefully the link is up there somewhere. I have various projects that I've been doing, and one of them is the print media archive. I talk about this a lot. It's under projects ongoing. And I've been linking real mainstream, pretty much mainstream news, legitimate journalism on these issues since then. And it's up to 16,000 articles. One of the misunderstandings that the public has is the media doesn't cover this. That's not true. The media's been covering it all the way since 1947. Total number of articles could be 50, 60,000. But I've only got up there what I can link to. So there's a few that have been transcribed and put up as an image, but 16,000 articles. In the last 7 years, going back to the breakthrough that we had in 2017, I think I'm up to 7,000. So imagine if you're reading all these articles and you're seeing the news coverage, that gives you a perspective on where things can go, because the news is going to reflect progress, is going to reflect the public view. Also, I do a tremendous amount of media. I need to do an assessment. It's over 1,500 interviews since 97. It could be approaching 2,000, and podcasts have made that possible. I mean, that's when things really took off. I've done so many podcasts I can't remember, and so I'm talking, and I'm using those podcasts to talk to the regular people out there. My audience is not PhDs at Harvard or longtime researchers. No, it's just the general public who are way behind on this issue. Obviously, the truth embargo is designed to keep them in the dark, and they have lives to lead, and the world is crazy. And so I try to come up with the language and the terminology that will help them understand what's happening, because we're going to get disclosure, and they're going to have to live in the post-disclosure world. And so, and I've had over 600 articles which has referred to my work. That's also up on my website, needs to be updated. So I'm the media guy who happens to be a registered lobbyist, didn't do much lobbying because nobody wanted to talk to me. Starting to do some of that now. But I registered lobbyist, not because, oh boy, I'm going to go down there like all the lobbyists and just start creating legislation. No, I did it to plant a flag. This issue is so important, it deserves to have a lobbyist, even if nobody will talk to him. There wasn't one. And that was like saying, it can't be that important, can it? And so I did that. Now there's like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lobbyists. Only took 29 years. But for about most of the last 29 years, I was the only one, whatever. So I'm a citizen advocate, activist, focused on the general picture, particularly anything that relates to the political progress leading to disclosure from the president. And in that regard, there are a few of my peers that have that perspective. And because they're focused on other things, writing books, research, and so forth. And I get it. That's hard work. I'm much too lazy to do that. Richard Dolan, my God, his output is unbelievable. But that doesn't give them the perspective I have. So they're wrong. We're going to get disclosure pretty soon. And then I'm going to do everything I can to be humble. I'm going to try, I swear to God. I'm reading books on humility.
Fine.
New Pope. I mean, just humble. Don't get people out of crap, because they were saying it would never happen in all those years, and whatever. It's going to be very nice.
Do you find Capitol Hill to be a revolving door that you have to re-educate all these new people that keep coming and going?
For most of the last 77 years, there was very little education going on up there. This issue is something they did not want to touch. So it didn't really matter who was in or out. They just were not getting educated. I think some of them privately. I think there's probably a few secret UFO libraries in the basement of a few members over the years. But the truth embargo was quite successful in screening off the United States Congress on this issue. They had 2 modest hearings in 66 and 69. I think they're about a half a day. Some people like Friedman and Hynek and others kind of spoke and said something, but nothing came from it. And immediately after, they shut down Blue Book and wiped out NICAP and figured they were home free. They weren't, but they did get some time. And the stigma in particular, move this way, stigmatizing and demeaning something, whether it's an idea, organizations, or persons, or even an ethnicity, by government is extremely effective. That's why they do it so much. And in some countries, the stigma is basically to keep you from doing it, but if you do it anyway, they just take you out back and shoot you, which tends to make that stigma even more powerful. We have a democracy, and so we have a lot of free speech. And so the truth embargo was successful in stigmatizing this issue, maintaining that, so people would stay away from it. And it's not hard to see how that would be. Imagine if you are a member of Congress and you want to touch this issue like Stephen Schiff did back in the early 1990s. Not good. Not good at all. You need votes, you need campaign funding, and going off in an area that's like considered, wacky. If you are a famous person, if you're a philanthropist, again, you can't afford the stigma. If you are an activist who has other issues that you're really interested in, important issues, you can't afford the stigma. It's going to undermine your other work. And so they managed to shield it off very effectively. Kept the money out, kept the academics out, because they're definitely sensitive to that. I mean, my God, that just makes them cringe. And so the citizens had to step in and fill all the gaps, do the research, try to get the media coverage, hold the conferences and all that with not much money. It was not easy. It was not fun. So the situation on the Hill was pretty much stagnant. There are some episodes. If I can get about 10 million, I want to do a streaming series, at least six seasons, on the truth embargo, which is probably as important and interesting as the presence of the ETs, which is actually getting kind of boring now. But the truth embargo, oh, what an amazing history. And it lasted for 77 years, whereas the Civil War only lasted for like 5, and look how much attention it got, right? So what happened is that around 2015, enough insiders had come to the conclusion the truth embargo needed to end, that they decided to take personal action. And they came forward and they put something together that ultimately ended up being the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, which was essentially a vehicle. It's like a booster rocket that brought these 10 people into the public arena with their names and bios attached behind the fact that they were going to support the issue and entertainment and whatever the hell that entity, which was a what they call not a nonprofit, but a public service corporation. And they came forward. And a lot of people didn't understand how important it was, but I did. I was in the UK at the time, and I was going, oh my God, this is huge. I need to get back, but I didn't have the money to get back. And then they made their major move just 2 months later, when people within that group, Elizondo, Mellon, and others, with the aid of very good journalists, Ralph Blumenthal and Leslie Kean, dropped 2 major stories into the New York Times, which vetted it and printed them in 2 papers and on the net all at once. So this is essentially December 16th of 2017. That's kind of when things launch, because from that moment forward, the amount of media coverage just accelerated until, again, 7,000 articles, triage from like probably 15,000 articles, because a lot of the stuff is fringe, silly, off to the, just have no consequence. I'm talking considerably important and professional journalism, 7,000 articles. Within a year, the stigma on the issue in terms of the journalism coverage collapsed. It was gone. You could barely find, maybe 1 in 150 or 200 articles would have some silly piece or a little debunking piece. That we changed the language to UAP so they could be more engaged by the media and the politicians, though UFO has made a comeback. And so the stigma's gone. And as that stigma slowly disappears, the bar lowers and lowers and lowers for academics, witnesses, politicians, and so forth to go, oh, I think I'll address this, which then escalates the thing. And so we have been we crested the hill in December of 2017, thanks to Leslie Kean, Ralph Blumenthal, the New York Times, God bless them, plus Elizondo, Mellon, and so forth. And we've been rolling downhill ever since. Occasionally slowed down, but never backed up. So, and at some point, we're almost near the bottom. And so that's kind of the last history, and that's what I follow. That's what I'm engaged in. If somebody wants to understand where disclosure is, go to my website, paradigmresearchgroup.org, go to projects, ongoing, go to Print Media Archive and read every single article since December 16th of 2017. And when you finish those 7,000 articles, some of them are duplicates, so it won't be full 7,000. You'll get what I'm trying to say.
Is it possible that you could create something like a super PAC where people, especially philanthropists, could donate to you anonymously?
Well, that's all happening in the last 2 years, because the stigma is called organizations are forming. You've got major organizations such as the Soul Foundation think tank, thesoulfoundation.org, nonprofit. And you've got not a nonprofit, but you've got a political entity, which is along the lines that you're talking about, called the UAP Disclosure Fund. That formed. And these are very heavy duty, substantial people involved. And then you've got the Society for UAP Studies, which is loaded with something like 40 PhDs. It is the largest, most significant academic-based entity, and it's only about a year old or so. The Society for UAP Studies, check it out. It's nothing but PhDs practically. And so they have stepped in. And I don't know if it's a nonprofit. I think probably it is. The New Paradigm Institute, Danny Sheehan's longtime goal, which he tried for years and years to do, finally got some good funding and now exists. It's got a great website, newparadigminstitute.org. And of course, Danny's all over the place. Paradigm Research Group is just a small, I'm very small, but very agile. I'm a nonprofit 501c3. And so all of these entities would welcome substantial funding, Bill Gates. But while the stigma's gone, and politicians and scientists are openly talking about it, people of substance like Gary Nolan with a Nobel Prize nominee is going on, I think, Fox News or News Nation and saying there's extraterrestrials here, right? Burchett is saying it. Colonel Carl Nelson. I mean, it's hard to find somebody that hasn't gone on television and said there's ETs here. So it's gone, but not yet for the money people. Bill Gates says he's going to give away $200 billion in the next 20 years. God bless him. And he's done a lot of good, in my view, right? These days, you're either the good guy or the awful guy, and everybody's taking sides. If Bill Gates were to drop $5 million into this issue right now, boom, these organizations would take off. And while it might not accelerate disclosure, all these organizations are forming, including now PRG as well. The truth embargo is going to end. We're going to get disclosure. These organizations are about post-disclosure. That's when the fun really begins. That's when the academics and the media are really needed. Post-disclosure, after when the entire world knows there's technologically advanced non-humans, which I'm pretty sure weren't living in caves or under the ocean, right? I'm pretty sure they're from another star system, which is what they tell people repeatedly. We're from the stars, and nobody wants to believe them. It's like, no, they can't be from the stars. That's impossible. But they're coming from the future. That's possible. And I'm going, really? So when that happens, we now begin the greatest paradigm shift in history, the greatest potential worldview change in history. And then how the world goes, what happens after that is in our hands until possibly we have open contact with ETs, which I think will happen soon after disclosure, year, 2 years, in which case it's our hands and somewhat in their hands, all of which is still a big deal, a really big deal. So the post-disclosure world, where much money will be made, where much political change will occur, is going to be when the real work happens and the real fun takes place. That's what this has been heading for all along. I knew there were ETs here when I was a teenager. I read a number of things and pieces, and they were being written in God's book, and I'm going, well, ETs are here, obviously. It was obvious, which is why I didn't really pay much attention after that. It was like the government will be talking about that soon, I'm sure. No. But so this idea that I'm doing 30 years of advocacy because I have to see ETs, no. The reason I'm doing it is because I understand, like so many, Danny Sheen and so many others, that disclosure of the ET presence will be the most profound event in human history and the best shot we have to reset the way we conduct our affairs on this planet before we blow it all to hell. And unfortunately, that's not just a hope that we do it before we blow to hell. It's absolutely necessary because we are about to blow it to hell. We're in the downside of the apocalyptic train, or wait a minute. What am I going for? It's like we're on a train to hell, and we're not far from it. So I can see the end of the track when we're going to crash and destroy ourselves. I can see it. A lot of people can see it. There's articles about it. People are getting depressed about it. People are not having children because of it. We've reached the end of the way humans have conducted their affairs for thousands of years, which is territorial, essentially dualism, good, bad, we're right, you're wrong, and massive destruction. Untold trillions of dollars of destruction, as well as militarism and defense and everything else, moving from weapon to weapon to weapon until we finally got nuclear weapons. This has been our history. The amount of destruction that we have as a species is astronomical and wasteful, but it is a product of evolution. It is a product of the survival of the fittest modality, which is how we got to be so smart and have fingers and whatever the hell. We can't do that anymore. All the other species in the planet, some will come, some will go, but they can't destroy the planet. Really, they can't do any of that. We are more destructive than all of the other animals on this planet combined times 50 or 100 or 200. We're the ultimate danger to ourselves, and we have reached the limit of that status. And at this point, the only door out of this, what do they call it, panic room, is disclosure. That's why I put 30 years into this, and will do it until the day I die. Because can you imagine a more significant activist path than the connection between the ET presence, the worldwide disclosure of that, and and resolving the problems that are keeping us literally on the edge of destruction? Doesn't get any bigger than that.
I agree. What can you tell us about the recent UAP Disclosure Fund briefing on the Hill?
Yeah, that's the second one. In November 13th, when we have the second hearing in the House subcommittee chaired by the Representative Nancy Mace, that went very, very well. We had 4 witnesses. Lou Elizondo, of course, is all over this issue. Michael Schellenberger, who is a journalist that was involved in the Immaculate Constellation. And then we had Mike Gold, and we had a particularly very, very nice and incredible man, Rear Admiral Gov't. So that was a very powerful hearing. Later that day, there was a briefing in the Senate by Senator Gillibrand and Senator Burns, where they put John Kozlowski, the new Aero director, under oath, and they talked with him for a good while. That all happened. That evening, Bob Salas was able to talk with a member of Congress for the first time since he started advocating for these witnesses to testify, the witnesses to the shutdown of our nuclear weapons. And she was very gracious. It was filmed. It's on the internet. You can find it. And she indicated that she was interested in having the nuclear shutdown witnesses testify before the committee. And that is in play. So that happened on the 13th. That evening, there was another event. The UAP Disclosure Fund put on an event up on Capitol Hill. VIP invites, right? Invite only. Mine got lost in the mail. I understand that. The post office is stressed out right now. On the Hill, this stuff never happened. I mean, this kind of thing never happened. Going all the way back to 47. And suddenly, it's routine. And so a couple months have gone by. UAP Disclosure Fund holds a congressional hearing, not a hearing, but a briefing, which had to be sponsored by members of the committee, You just can't go up as a private organization, pull some people together and give a briefing now. And it was in the oversight, one of the oversight committee rooms, packed the audience was packed, and it went fine. So again, the millennials and the Gen Zs, certainly, maybe even some of the Gen Xs, they a lot of them think this is normal. They're just going, oh, there's another thing happening. Oh, that's interesting. They think it's normal. It's not. It's not normal at all. And so they're not recognizing what's happening. They don't see what's coming. I get that. Right? There's hearings all the time. This is about UAP. No big deal. It is a big deal. It took 70 years from 47 when they put out a press release and said, yeah, we got an ET craft, basically, flying saucer, to get to that New York Times article. 70 years. A lot of work by thousands of people, a lot of sacrifice against a government that denied everything you were doing and would certainly encourage people to think you were nuts. And a bunch of debunkers out there that were happy to troll you to death. And then in these last 7 years, we're just accelerating like this. My job, one of my jobs is to get that out there, to let people understand this is not normal. This is an extraordinary change, shift change in what's going on, leading to somewhere that took 77 years to get to the launch pad. But we are very close to getting into orbit. I think it could happen within the next month or so. It could happen tomorrow, frankly, based upon what I know. And I'm happy to share that too.
Well, there was supposed to be another hearing this week, and I don't know if it got canceled or delayed. What's going on with that one?
Got canceled. Well, again, as part of this developing process, which is very much centered around the House Oversight Committee, and in particular the House Oversight Subcommittee, whose members include Burchett and Mace, and Luna, and Burleson, Moskowitz, so forth. They are at the point of the spear. I mean, they are out in front of this issue, more so now than the Senate was. The Senate did tremendous things. Don't get me wrong, but the Senate has a lot that's stable, and there's a lot going on in the world, and so essentially, the House just pretty much took it over and said, "We'll take it from here." So, the Burchett was the first person in the House really that went progressive. He basically had seen enough, and he started going on programs and saying, there's ETs here, we have crashed vehicles and so forth. News Nation, Fox News. Adamant, very, very strong. Then, of course, the other committee people, on the same committee as he, I think saw how that was going and going, this is working. There's a lot of people responding to this. He got, I know Tim Burchett got a tremendous amount of positive email and letters. And I think the other ones are saying, okay, let's get involved. And so they got involved, and ultimately they had a hearing, right? July 26, 2023. And then they had another hearing, November 13th, 2024. And then to take it one step further, the chairman of the entire subcommittee, Comer, did something I didn't see coming. And I don't know if it's ever, I don't think there's ever been one of these with respect to this issue, ever. So it's another milestone. He set up a task force called, no ambiguity here, the Task Force for Declassifying Government Secrets. There's a lot of government secrets. So technically, every government secret comes under that task force, which through the committee would have subpoena power if needed. And in this case, he made Representative Luna the chair, which really brought her very much forward into the front of this. And so you have three people that have really been in the front of this in the House: Burchett, Mason, Luna. But this task force is a whole nother matter. And so, okay, we're waiting. What's going to happen next? Well, what happens next is Luna puts out an announcement that, one, she's going to have another SKIF. I think they had one a while back, sometime back, very unsatisfactory. But they were going to have another SKIF with multiple people talking to her and others within the SKIF. Now, For those that don't know what a SKIF is, sensitive compartmented information facility, it's very confusing. But the reason that it's needed is because while a person with a classification status or the clearance to say something, and you've got another person that has the clearance to hear it, technically, if they're not in something like a SKIF, it could get overheard. You wouldn't believe the technology they have. You know, I got laser stuff that you actually pointed at a window and you can hear what's going on, that kind of stuff. So the SKIF is basically the zone of silence, the cone of silence in Get Smart, which a lot of people don't know about because they're not as old as I am, but Get Smart was a big deal. And there was the cone of silence. And that's what it is. Only it's a room and it's shielded. And so you go in a SKIF so that things can be said. They cannot be said outside of that SKIF, which takes things to another level. And members of Congress do this because in order to hold hearings and be able to conduct them appropriately and go in the right directions and not get crosswise with the national security's protocols, they get in a SKIF, they get told information, and then they decide what to do with it. This was scheduled for the 27th. Multiple people would have been in there. Then she announced that also on the week of the 12th, there would be a third hearing, possibly in front of the entire committee, big deal. And then at what was going to be the last thing was going to be, the briefing, right? Was going to happen on the 1st, and then there would be a hearing the week of the 12th. And she puts that out there, puts it on the net, it goes viral, and she also had a statement attached to it, which I picked up on. Most people would not have realized how important it is. But the statement from Representative Annapolena Luna, who is one of the most conservative partisan Republicans in the House, was the investigation. The UAP issue is the most bipartisan investigation in the history of the United States. That is a very important statement because it is the most bipartisan, remains the most bipartisan, in spite of the fact that the partisanship is not diminished, it is escalating to God knows where it's going to go. But it's clear that a very substantial number of people in the Congress, in the House and Senate, are determined to stay in that bipartisan zone or nonpartisan zone, which is a kind of bipartisan plus. This lets everybody know that they recognize how important this is. They recognize they're making history, that they're going to be talking, they're going to be writing and discussing what has been happening the last couple of years and what's coming for the next 1,000 years. It'll be a lot easier because, again, you just hit AI and say, what happened, 2015, and boom, out it comes. So that was the schedule. Now, it changed. One, the SKIF couldn't come together. It very likely involved the availability of people because that can change from day to day. And they couldn't get the people they needed at that particular time, so they had to reschedule it. So they had to reschedule it towards the end of the month. I don't know if there's a date yet, but it's toward the end of the month. The hearing was very much based on that SKIF. In other words, they wanted to do the SKIF and then have a hearing and be able to utilize what they learn in that SKIF as to how they handle that hearing, maybe even who they bring in. So they had to push that forward. So the hearing is pushed forward as well. I'm assuming into June. I would say, maybe the 10th week of the 10th of June, somewhere in there makes sense. So I'm looking forward to that. And then the congressional briefing did take place. And so we're still marching forward on this issue. And that's important. But something else happened, which I love bringing up, that most people don't know about. The vast majority of the American people do not know this happened. And why should they? There's how many million podcasts are there now? 8, 9, 10? I can't remember.
Who knows?
And so, what? So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about a podcast that took place 5 days before the current president took the oath, the inauguration on January 20th. 5 days, there was a podcast. So what? Well, the podcast was the podcast of Donald Trump Jr., who, as it turns out, is a pretty good podcaster. He's a good host. He knows what he's doing. He's sharp. And he'd been having podcasts and building up a pretty substantial subscriber list. Big number. I should check on it and see what it is, but it's a big number. Okay, fine. So Don Jr. has a podcast. And his father's going to be inaugurated. What's the big deal? The big deal is that he brought on, for that hour and a half, Luis Elizondo and Ross Coulthart. Now, for those of you that are following this issue, that's a big deal. And he interviewed him for an hour and a half about all these issues that we're talking about. Do you think that was just one of these coincidences that happens? Do you think he just did it as a surprise for his father and then told him afterwards, hey, Dad, guess what? I had Luis Elizondo and Ross Coulthart on. It's probably the other way around. His father may have suggested he do that. Now, why would the president-to-be do that? It's called reading the room. The president is aware of this issue. The president is aware of the disclosure movement. Now, the degree of awareness, don't know. So, how much time he's invested in it, don't know. But aware is enough. And so the podcast is held, and then read the comments. So I haven't done that. Let me go read the comments of the podcast of what you're reading in the room. You're reading what people who follow Donald Trump Jr. think about the guests he just had on. So this is significant. These are the things I follow. So when I say disclosure is close, it's because I follow all of these things as opposed to what others focus on. So the recent congressional briefing by the UAP Disclosure Fund was another step forward. We're waiting, obviously, the SKIF. And if that happens, then there will almost certainly be a hearing in June. And where will we be then? But the one thing I want to get across, the most importantly, is this. For years now, I've been talking about the fact that there was an orderly process, a political process that needed to happen to get disclosure from the president in an appropriate, responsible way. Right? It would be max positive, min negative. It involved legislation. It involved education of members of Congress, which you had to do before you got to legislation. Lots of media coverage. And then hearings, where witnesses who have never had the opportunity to talk under oath about this issue do that. And there are lots of them. And that would build a platform on which the president could stand. By that, I mean the president could step out on that platform and without anyone particularly being shocked or offended, could state that I'm fully aware of all of the legislation and the testimonies and so forth. I've made queries with my appointees in the national security arena. And I can say now that it's clear we are being engaged by technologically advanced non-humans or non-human biologics, or if he really wants to be bold, extraterrestrials. Oh, and we've had disclosure, capital D, which is the term I came up with in 2001, I think. Not small d disclosure. That was in play, believe me. Still in play. Capital D disclosure was an event like Earth Day. It's World Disclosure Day. The day that the first head of state confirms the ET presence. Head of state of one of the major nations, nuclear powers, whatever. And that was the platform that needed to be built. Now, it didn't quite work out that way, not surprising. It's been a tumultuous, complicated time. But We did get 4 tranches of legislation, including one major bill that had to be cut in half, but it's been resubmitted and be resubmitted again. Plenty of members of Congress have been briefed privately. And of course, we've had hearings, all of this stuff. I was thinking Senate Intel Committee. I'm now thinking Oversight Committee works for me. And so I believe the platform has been established, it's been built. For the president to step out on it and confirm the ET presence. And nobody's going to be shocked. And I assure you, within a very short amount of time, certainly all of the nuclear nations, including the Soviet Union, Russia and China, will confirm it as well. They all have evidence. They all have more than enough evidence to confirm it to their own people. And we are in the post-disclosure world. But there's one more aspect of this that gives me even more confidence. There have been 13 presidents since Roswell. Or is it 14? I think it's 14 presidents since Roswell. 14 different people. 13 of them simply could not step up on that platform and confirm the ET presence. Prior to the end of the Cold War, or the first Cold War I, get it. It just wasn't going to happen. Once the Soviet Union collapsed, communism was outlawed, it looked like we were going to get a break and maybe actually find a way out of the mess we created. The door opened, and the first president really to be able to engage it was Clinton. And he didn't make an effort, and there was outside encouragement and projects. It's called the Rockefeller Initiative. But it got flattened by the DOD. The DOD said no way. So it didn't happen. And then other things started happening, so we moved forward in time. The fact is that 13 presidents simply weren't going to do it. And it's also important to accept the fact that every president of the United States has known about the ET presence. This idea that that there's this super secret cabal and even the president doesn't know, that's all it's not fantasy, but it's understandable. The truth embargo creates this vacuum and people fill it with whatever they want. You're not going to be you're the president of the United States. I don't care where the programs are classified. I don't care how underground they are. There are people that are going to tip you off. You may not get a briefing from the Department of Defense, but you will be tipped off. This is true for billionaires. It's true for very powerful people, major filmmakers like Spielberg and so forth. People line up to tip people off like that. They want to tell them something that's important because maybe it'll benefit them. And so they know. They've chosen not to go there. I get it. But every president has known and has chosen not to do it. Every president we have had since Roswell, obviously, including Truman, had the power to simply call in their appointees from the national security entities, and there are many, not just the directors, but also others, call them all into the office and say, I want the files delivered within 30 days, confirming the ET presence, and if you don't deliver those to the White House, I'm going to fire all of you, every one of you, and replace you with somebody else, and I'm going to ask them the same thing, and if they don't do it, I'm going to fire them. Absolutely. Every president could have ended this at any time if they were willing to be that bold and expend that political capital. None did. And now we have a new president, second term president, where he's even less fettered than he was in the first term. But he is unlike any other president that I am aware of in the modern era. He is a president that will do whatever the hell he wants to do. And if he wants to do it, he's not going to be talked out of it. He goes places that other presidents would even dream of going. He's operating in a different operating system. Windows 15, whatever. And so is this a president that could simply do it tomorrow because he wants to do it? Absolutely. And so you add all the platform has been built, and now you have a president with far less constraints. That's the recipe for disclosure. And for those that say, well, I don't like this president, he's the wrong president, I'm saying tough. I don't care. Right? But to be sure, or to be clear, If our president discloses the ET presence in the next weeks or months, he will get one of the greatest legacies of all time in terms of leadership. It will be a major issue forever. I mean, he will be legend. All right. However, every other head of state of the major nations will follow suit within weeks, and this will become a global engagement. It will be post-disclosure engagement of this issue by all of the major nations, and all the other nations will certainly know about it. Maybe they can't really get too much involved. And so it will be a global matter, and our president will be part of other presidents and part of trying to decide policy and what do we do about the UN? Do we reform it? Do we create another global entity? Whatever, in preparation for open contact. So that's where we are. I think it could happen at any time, and I'm planning on it.
Did you hear Trump's statement a week or a few weeks ago about that we have a weapon that's far more powerful than anything anybody else has? Mm-hmm. Do you think that's some sort of ET weapon?
I don't know. But the truth is, we have a lot of things that are way more special than anything else you know about, right? A lot of things. And they have the Department of Defense and our military intelligence complex, which was created and funded to protect us against all enemies, foreign, they went down a road that more secrecy is better than less secrecy. It made it easier to do funding in a sense, and they've thrived on that, and they've abused that privilege. And so we've reached a point where there's a lot of things they have that are really, and they brag about it. You've heard it many times. Ben Rich several times bragged about this. We have the ability to take ET home, and we have this and we have that. And they're maybe feeling like, I'm going to just give you a little hint, a taste. I know you're frustrated, but here's a taste. No, I'm sorry, Ben. I don't want a taste. I want to know everything you have. Now, not necessarily all at once, but I want the process to begin where everything ultimately is going to be in the public domain, and we know about all your super weapons, all your special craft, all your special energy systems, everything. We pay you to serve us, not us leave us in the dark, shove us in the closet. Now, as it happens, the UAP Disclosure Act, written by Chuck Schumer, Mike Rounds, and staff, which was the ultimate bill, the total package. Start this, post-disclosure, boom, off we go, all ready to go. But it got pushed back because we're not quite there yet, but half the bill is in place. And the other bill, the rest of it could be passed at any time. So when we get disclosure, that bill will probably be filled out, fully passed, and the whole process of revealing the entire secret world, short of methods, right? Methods and personnel and so forth. But everything that really is important, we need to know, is going to come out. And once it starts coming out, it's not going to get slowed down because thanks to the internet, the engagement of the process of this stuff coming out by the world is going to be at a level of intensity that even Taylor Swift will be envious of. Billions of posts and views of everything attached to the post-disclosure situation. And so the idea that they're going to come back with a Twitter post or a press brief, a press statement out of the Pentagon, we're going to slow things down for a while. We need a little more time, so we're going to take a couple of years off, and we'll get back to getting stuff to you. And the world will say, "I don't think so," and all hell will rain down. So once the dam breaks, all the water is going to try to get out all at once. So that's kind of where we're going.
Well, the world got a new pope. Do you think that this pope will aid disclosure in any way?
Let's just say, Danny Sheehan was on News Nation just last night or night before, talking about that because he's been dealing with the Vatican forever, and I haven't seen it yet. but obviously I want to know what he said. I did expect an American Pope. I don't think they were even putting a betting line out. I'm on FanDuel. There you go, right? But that's what we got. So I'm going to speculate. Forgive me, for I know not what I do. I have to believe that the conclave of cardinals, who didn't take too long, I don't know how many votes it was, not many, I think it was 4 votes, 2 days, that they just didn't go in there and start passing votes, and who's up, who's down, whatever. They went in there with a plan, and that plan was to get an American Pope without question. And so why would they want an American Pope right now? Speculating here, speculating. Of all the religions in the world, the one that has the most connection to the modern UAP ET era is the Catholic Church. It's not the Protestants, right? It's not the Buddhists. It's not the Islamic faith. It is the Catholic faith. And that's because of the nature of Catholicism, its ancient history, and its very well-defined structure. Right? It's a big deal. Catholic Church was part of the evolution of the West and all of Europe, and still has a very powerful place. The Pope is not just another Buddha or just a priest or something. The Pope is like an incredibly powerful, influential person. And I believe the United States is on the threshold of disclosure. I think it should have done it long before now, but it's very close. And the Catholic Church is following all that, I assure you. And so the idea of the United States is going to be the disclosure country and the initial powerful focus of the entire world on what do you got, what did you do, and what have you. In terms of the Catholic faith, absorbing this and dealing with this, it doesn't hurt to have an American Pope to speak to the Catholic around the world, 1.4 billion, and very much brought into the picture. Because if I'm the president and we get disclosure from the government, one of the very early matters they need to address is how the various faiths of the world are handling it, right? How do we service their concerns and so forth? And a Catholic Pope is certainly going to make it a lot easier to address any concerns of the 1.4 billion Catholics. So this is important, but there's more to it. This particular Pope is a, I guess, liberal social theology. Catholic social theology is very much part of his realm, as it was for Francis. I think this is also a plus. Now, I'm not trying to get partisan here, but I'm trying to make an important point that disclosure of the ET presence opens the door to maybe solve a lot of problems in this world. Problems that we simply won't fix. We just don't do it. Just refuse to do it. Right? It's like a kid that just refuses to make his bed or her bed every day. Drives the mother crazy. We may get to a place where we can start fixing these things. There is a tremendous amount of suffering in this world right now. There is a tremendous amount of hatred in this world right now. A lot of abuse by the rich and powerful. And so one of the needs must take place in the post-disclosure world. They need to use this paradigm shift to address those needs. And not just go, well, you guys are screwed, but you're still screwed, but we're going to Mars, we're going to the stars, we're going to have all kinds of cool energy and stuff, so sorry you can't, come along for the ride, but, you're just not, you're not fit for this. No, they need to have someone, more than one, persons to talk about how this paradigm shift is going to help improve their lives and address some of the worst things that they are dealing with. And we've got a Catholic Pope there who, when he speaks in the area of social justice, everybody hears it. You don't have to be a Catholic to appreciate when the Pope of the Catholic Church is trying to address the social issues that we're facing in this world. If you're a starving child, you want to hear where help and solace will come from. You don't care what faith is telling you this or who the leader of that faith is. And so we got a Catholic Pope who is going to probably be, post-disclosure, a major conduit of how the United States is going to address the massive amount of human suffering that our former policies have created. So I'm speculating here. Okay. Now, all I can say is that I hope that registers. I hope that maybe somebody out there goes, that's a good idea. But I have a feeling the Catholic Church is way ahead of me. The Catholic Church has known about the ET presence for a long time, as I've mentioned in other interviews. The Catholic Church is unlike any other faith in one regard. While there have been religions that do have what we call a confessional, right? A redemptive confession. Most of they're not like the Catholic Church. They were open in some cases, but the Catholic Church really created a very structured confessional. Eventually, even adding what they call the boxes. There was a time when you could confess to your priest. There were no boxes. Then you had the boxes. And so that started 800 years ago. And so the Catholic Church was in this position where over the centuries, millions and millions and millions of Catholics confessed to their priest their concerns, which wasn't just limited to, I have sinned, Father. But Father, I saw something I can't understand. Something turned up in my room. I have no idea what it was. It could have been a devil. It could have been an angel. I am scared. I am frightened. Can you describe it to me? My son, my sister, can you do that? And they would describe it. And so the priest, of course, is not supposed to share what they're being told by the member of the faith in confession. But let's just say that when it comes to certain things, it gets shared up the line. It goes up the line and passed upward. And so for centuries, they have been getting these reports, probably related to what was in fact ET activity, but obviously expressed in not ways that we are familiar with, and accumulating those and stashing them away, whatever the reports are, and if they did some studies, they might have, into the library, the Vatican library. And so as you approach the modern era of the UAP phenomena really begins in the 40s and escalates from there. If the church had not already figured out what this is, they started putting the pieces together pretty quickly. And so the Catholic Church is, again, in a very strong position, the other faiths, to be a major influence in the post-disclosure world. This may end up getting them a lot more Catholics. I'm sure they'll be happy with that.
Didn't they make a statement several years ago that ETs, if they're real, they're also under God?
Yes, there have been several statements. They're probably compiled somewhere. I should do that. But way back in the early aughts, Monsignor Colorado Balducci, who was very close to the Pope, was literally talking about it blatantly. And actually in our world, he came to one of my ex-conferences. He was engaging our world. We'll call it the UP citizen activist world. It was like a bridge. God bless him. But then later on, Gabriel Funes, the Vatican astronomer, physicist, he started speaking to it. And at least 2 popes have said something, and always positive, always positive. One of the notable statements was that the Catholic Church would be more than happy to baptize an extraterrestrial. Another important statement was that if there are other worlds, that simply means that God's universe is even more special than we knew. So the Catholic Church, for whatever reason, well, let's just say, the Catholic Church has fully redeemed itself from that little problem with Galileo and Giordano Bruno and a few others. That was not good. They've now flipped, and they're leading the religions of the world about extraordinary new science, and that's fine. That's nice. So they are fully forgiven on my end. That's for sure. I don't know if the Giordano Bruno's family is prepared to forgive them, but whatever. So that's where we are in that. And so, again, who wants to tell me that it's just the same old stuff? It's like 69, it's like 52, it's like 84, that it's just like, no, please. It's not. We're in unprecedented territory heading towards one of the biggest events you can even imagine experiencing.
Well, do you think the Catholic Church made those statements because they want disclosure, or it was just like a pressure valve release just in case something happens?
Again, it's a miracle that disclosure, I'm sorry, that the truth embargo has lasted as long as it has. Absolutely a miracle. I do not know how they did it. But it's the emperor's new clothes, which only lasted for like one outing. I mean, they convinced the emperor that he had this fantastic new set of clothes, which he had nothing because they didn't have time to make it. They didn't want to have their head chopped off. And they paraded him out in front of the townspeople. And right away, a kid holds up his hand and says, yeah, I'm pretty sure the emperor's naked. This is the emperor's new clothes, but not for one outing. We're talking 77 years of telling the people the emperor's got a fantastic set of clothes when every year millions more people see that the guy's stark naked. That's quite a feat. And that's why the truth embargo needs to be a major film, major series, needs to have a major book. What can I say? I'm happy to consult. I can't sit still long enough to write anything these days or even read anything, frankly. But it has to be, because for me, the presence of extraterrestrials is normal and fully expected. I was into science. I got a degree in physics and all that kind of stuff. I wasn't into the great books and Shakespeare and stuff. And so and I read lots of science fiction. And so the idea of life on another planet to me was obvious when I was a teenager. And it's always been that way. Right? And so it's like this is not that big a deal in a sense, right? But the U.S. government decided, no, we've got to keep this from everybody, and we're going to do everything we can to make people not even believe their own eyes. And so that could not last. There was no way it could last. So it's going to end, and the Catholic Church knows it, and the Catholic Church is well positioned on this. And you can bet your bottom dollar if President Trump confirms it, Pope Leo XIV will be on it like that.
Did you happen to catch the interview with Catherine Austin Fitts and Tucker Carlson recently? And she was talking about all these underground cities that have been made. Do you think that has anything to do with ETs?
Sort of. Again, speculating. Do ETs have bases here? I'm about 98% on that. They're just, they could be operating from the moon, but that would be very difficult. They could be operating from motherships. That would be extremely difficult, given how much activity there is and so forth. And there's been reports from contactees that actually points to they have bases. And they're not down behind the local mall. I mean, they're where you can't get to. There might have been an exception to that at Dulce. It's an interesting story, but whatever. You can't get to them. I think their bases are under mountains and under the ocean bed. Okay? Feel pretty strong about that. When they built them doesn't matter. Their ability to do it, they have that ability to do it, no question. And it's one of the reasons you see a lot of I think one of the reasons that we're more aware of and hearing more about the unidentified submerged objects is that they do have the underground. They are under the seabed with bases, and they got, if they want to get out here, they got to come out, water, whatever. Under mountains, it's a little less obvious, but so they have bases. Okay. Does the United States have underground base? Absolutely. Of course they do. They had to do it for national security reasons. They had to do it in order to protect our leadership in the event of a nuclear war. I believe that there is a massive underground facility under the Denver airport, maybe 85% on that. But I was living in Denver all those years they built it, and it seemed very odd in a lot of ways. Anyway, I think they have that. So that's pretty straightforward for me. Now, have they really gone further than that? Interesting. I know that they have drilling machines. They have machines that are able to drill and create space that are very advanced. And you don't see these. Every once in a while, you'll see a photo of one of the, quote, drilling machines. It's usually this like tube with a front end. It's pretty impressive. But those go back a ways. But do we see pictures of other equipment that they're likely using in creating underground facilities? We do not. I think the technology for creating underground facilities is kind of like the technology regarding flying stuff around. I think we have anti-gravity craft that is sequestered, and we'd like to have that. And I think they have some extraordinary capabilities in underground drilling or facility making that would surprise us. Now, if that's true, they've had decades to build something like that. But this is an example of one of the dilemmas we have because of the truth embargo. How do you disprove Catherine Austin Fitts? You really can't. Can you dismiss her? No. She has a substantial background. So I'm not going to tell. I can't say that they have vast underground facilities, massive, almost cities with tunnels that go out thousands of miles. I can't say that. Would I be shocked if they didn't? They did, rather? No. Would it be a big deal? Yeah, except that one of the reasons that they have built these facilities, whether they're substantial or phenomenal, one of the reasons that Russia, Soviet Union, was building more underground bunkers than we were for years and may have even more than we have, because they got a lot of territory. It's the largest country in the world, and that's after they got rid of 14 republics in the early 1990s. Why? Nuclear war. Absolutely. It's going to be a nuclear war, and we're going to build all these facilities, and people who just warrant being saved, you can speculate who those people would be, will have a place to go to start over again. There is a very successful series called Fallout. It's fun. Watch it. There's going to be a second season. I can't wait.
I've seen it. It's good.
This is part of the crazy world we're in. We're in a world where nations have built vast underground facilities, not just to do secret stuff, which they do, but for people who get the invite to survive the nuclear war. We're in a world where the wealthiest people, and we've got wealthy people like the world has never seen, are building deluxe bunkers under their homes here, but they're also buying up properties overseas. New Zealand's property is going up unnecessarily too much because the rich are just paying any price to get some super duper place, and then they're slamming a giant bunker underneath it to survive the nuclear war. At the same time, we don't even talk about nuclear war really much at all. The politicians don't talk about it. They don't address it. There's no effort really to reduce the weapons anymore. We've given up. This is Bizarreville. And it's one of the reasons, and people know this. I mean, whether they're paying close attention or not, citizens know this. They know that, we could very well have a nuclear war, and I don't have an invite to the bunker, and that's the ball game, and that's not right, and that's not fair. It's nuts. We can't openly talk about this. I want to see panels on News Nation and Fox News and CNN going deep into the whole wealthy deluxe bunker creation stuff, where they've got film rooms and giant libraries and swimming pools down there, and why they're doing it, and why they're so afraid. And of course, I'd love to see, some real discussions politically and so forth on the entire underground facility complex that we built. Can't even talk about that, right? Did they really think that not letting people know there's a mass facility under the Denver airport is going to change anything? Do they think that the Russian government doesn't know about it? They do this stuff, right? Whether it's ET related and getting craft and everything else, they do this stuff knowing full well that, like the atomic bomb and that program and the Manhattan Project and everything else we did, our enemies knew about it. They spend a fortune on spying. They had spies in the Manhattan Project. They had spies in the hydrogen bomb program. They were on it the whole time. They had spies in terms of Roswell. They know about that. So the government has this massive secrecy stuff, this whole truth embargo thing, to keep the people out of it, while knowing that our enemies know all about it. So the idea that if we learn about it, that increases the risk. What? This is an obsessive, almost obsessive compulsive, secrecy-driven distortion. It's an OCD disease that we got here on a national scale that has to end. And so, yeah, I'd like to know about those facilities. And if she proves to be right, then God bless her for putting this out there. But once again, it's one of those things you put out, you can't prove it, and it just hangs there in midair for the internet to take pokes at. This is all wasted time. It's foolishness. Just get the truth out. Tell the people what's going on. Let them engage it. Talk about it. See where it's going to go. Open the government. And people will start believing you again, trusting you again. And it could be a much more pleasant time to be an American citizen or a politician or a member of the military intelligence complex. But they simply can't quite do it. And so the disclosure advocate movement is basically an intervention. The government is hopelessly addicted to secrecy, and huge numbers of people are trying to surround them with love and attention and caring and say, look, let us help you, right? You can get this monkey off your back. Here's how you can do it. We're not going to savage you. We're not going to sue you to death. We want you to get moved to another place. It's good, better for you, better for us. That's one way to look at it.
Why doesn't Putin or President Xi be the first to the party to announce ETs?
They've given the same answer on that question for 25 years. There's only one explanation. Well, there could be two. Okay. One's pretty cool, the other one's not cool. The less upsetting explanation is that these are the two most powerful authority states in the world. All right. Now, they're not North Korea, but they're ideological states with tremendous power at the top, great control over what the citizens do and think, and that's how they roll. And the fact is that the paradigm shift that will come from disclosure, the worldview impact, is not going to make it easier for them to keep their, 1.5 billion or 160 million people in line. Yeah, focused on the ideology, focused on the great leader, not going to be distracted. No, So I don't think they see it as a positive at all. I think they see it as a threat to the way that they conduct their affairs. The other reason is scarier and is a legitimate concern. And that is, logically, these nations have crash vehicles. But the idea that ETs only crash in the United States is ludicrous. And so recently, we've gotten some pretty good evidence that there was a crash in Italy in 33. I didn't know about it. I've been following it, and it's starting to shape up, looking pretty good, whatever. So Russia is this unbelievably large country, going all the way back to the 50s. China is pretty big. And so the idea that no vehicles ever crashed in the Soviet Union or China is ludicrous. And so we have to assume that they have crash vehicles just like us. And therefore, they are dealing with the technology and science possibilities just like us. And so the next step is pretty straightforward. Is there an extraterrestrial technology-based arms race underway in addition to the conventional arms race, which is also underway? And if that is true, then those who are front and center of that arms race, which would be the United States, China, and Russia, then the Soviet Union, don't want to disclose. They want to be able to operate as secret as possible in terms of develop potential weapons that could be used against our foes down the line. ET-derived weapons, which is exactly what you think we would do. It's what we do. We can't stop it. And if that's happening, well, that's another reason why the truth embargo must end. Absolutely. Okay. It's bad enough that we still got a nuclear arms race underway, and we're finding faster ways to fire the rockets and hypersonic rockets, and they're talking about putting the satellites and everything else. But if there's, in fact, the potential use of ET-based technology in weapon systems even more powerful than that, just anti-gravity craft. Anti-gravity craft would be the ultimate first strike weapon. In other words, you got a nuke, and you can go, poof, there you are, drop it. Now, you get a bunch of those. All the first strike does is give you a little edge. But eventually, you got to deal with the other missiles, and everybody's going to die. But still, the first strike is first strike weapon is that temptation. Strike first, we can win. The problem is that once first strike weapons are how would you say, real, right? Then everybody's going to assume the other ones have got them. So at some point, everybody's sitting there going, everybody else has a first strike weapon. One of them's going to do it. One of them's going to do it. We better do it first. This seems so simple, doesn't it? So trivial, almost childlike. It's, in fact, the nature of global war right now. Right? So I hope that second is not the reason by Russia and China. But if there is a ET weapons arm race, the sooner the entire world knows that, the better we have a chance to say, let's don't do that. The longer it stays in secrecy, the much more likely we will do that. And that's just one more reason when I say we are on the edge of falling off the cliff or into the volcano or whatever. I'm serious. There's a reason the doomsday clock is at 89 seconds to midnight. Hell, it'll probably be 50 seconds to midnight pretty soon. And that's a clock that's been around a long time. And it used to be 7 minutes. I think it got to 10 at one point. Now it's practically midnight, folks. The Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, physicists, the people that are most close attention to where the nuclear arms race is, are saying you're practically there. And that's why people are buying deluxe bunkers in New Zealand and other countries. So again, that's the best answer I can give. But they have chosen not to. Having said that, let's be clear, and I've said this hundreds, 1,000 times, maybe more. It's a simple message to the Pentagon. It never invites me to any of their affairs. Only time I got to the Pentagon was with a friend's retirement event. They give them the special retirement thing. I went in, I went out, nobody collared me. that this is a message to the Pentagon. Unless Putin and Xi Jinping are actually on your payroll and getting, a big check every month and a W-2 at the end of the year, either one of them could come out and end the truth embargo tomorrow, and you're going to look like idiots. Xi Jinping or Putin gets one of the greatest political legacies of all time. The nation becomes the great truth-telling nation, and the United States is just sitting there, right? Going, and then finally we admitted, okay, it's true. But the American people didn't hear it from us first. Our president heard it from Xi Jinping first. I don't think I want to be anybody in the chain of command or in the political hierarchy that has to go to the American people and explain how they knew this and didn't take action, but now they have to because the president of China just did it. That rascal ruined our party. I keep saying this over and over again. Anyone ever calls me and says, Steve, you had a point. What can I say?
What effect do you think AI is having or will have on disclosure?
Non-trivial, very significant. First of all, is if the internet wasn't bad enough for the truth embargo, right? I think in the early days of the internet, UFO was the second most searched term. Take a guess about the first one. Then came social media and the ability to mass communicate at another level entirely, right? Because that was bad. And then came the podcast revolution. So you got millions of podcasts in which anybody wants to have a UAP podcast, no problem. Everybody's got technology as good as Walter Cronkite had like 70, 60 years ago. And the whole issue is now being discussed and archived, and the archiving thing. They had to survive that, which they have, and then comes AI, and it's public, right? The reason it's public is because there was no way that the inventors of AI were going to tell the government to take it secret because the public can't handle it. No, they're making a fortune. They're going to make trillions of dollars, and so everybody's got AI. There's probably 10-year-olds right now that are already building businesses with AI. They'll be worth 10 million by the time they're 17. And so I haven't gotten into it myself because I'm very old, but I am going to go there. You've got dozens of various platforms that are only getting stronger every day. So what does this matter? What it matters is that people now are going to be able to use AI to assess what the government's saying and doing. They can use AI to take some photograph or something that turns up and quickly decide whether it's real or not. That helps, right? They're already using AI to make questions about the truth embargo and other things and UAP and stuff. So unless the government can actually control the whole information structure so that nothing gets in there that can turn up in somebody's AI output, they're screwed. So again, for God's sakes, let it go. Now, the other thing is kind of cool. And that is this. I see open contact very quickly after disclosure, a year, 2 years tops. Open contact means talking. Okay. Doesn't mean that they're, in Capitol Hill, walking the halls. It just means that open contact. Some sort of communication is underway that is publicly known. In other words, they're talking to us, we're talking to them, and we know what they're talking about. So and then from there, who knows where it's going to go? The point is that in the post-disclosure world, it will be acknowledged that we're part of a multi-civilization galaxy in which 4, 5, 6, 7 of these civilizations are already engaging us, and maybe others in the past. And so the future is going to get more complicated. And while I appreciate the universal translator that was in Star Trek and all the Star Trek stuff, Roddenberry was ahead of his time in terms of being able to communicate with an advanced species. Now, advanced could mean 500 years. Believe me, that's plenty advanced. 500 is where we are, or 1,000, or 5,000. As you get out even further, I think you're dealing with species that really could care less about us, but whatever. In terms of being able to communicate and understand and address AI, absolutely. So AI will become much even more powerful AI than we have now, will become the interface in which we communicate with these species in order to advance civilizations, in order to benefit from what they know, to be able to understand what they're communicating, which makes total sense, right? And will change the world. In terms of on Earth, from the standpoint of Earth, the Tower of Babel is about to be fixed. It's taken a long time, right? And we've been making progress, a lot of progress. But the ultimate solution to the Tower of Babel is dawning right now. And so pay attention. Very soon, you're going to have ear pods that you can put in your ear filled with some pretty powerful tech that can translate 100 languages in real time. And so you go to France, you get off the plane, and somebody starts talking to you French. It is translating it into English, literally real time. Therefore, the Tower of Babel has been fixed, right? Literally, you have instant, straightforward communication without having to spend years of your life learning 8 languages or being unable to learn language like me. I couldn't even learn Spanish. I was very embarrassed. The teacher actually told me, don't come back for a second year in high school because you were, it's not good. It's not good for us. It's not good for you. And I didn't. Then in college, I tried to learn Russian. That didn't go well either. But this is coming. Imagine a world where everybody has the ability to, in real time, communicate with just about anybody else on the planet in their language. Boy, you don't think that's not going to change the way civilizations, the way different countries and ethnic groups and everything can communicate? It's not going to take the edge off. It's not going to take some of the uncomfortability out of it. It's transformative. Supposedly God made all the languages, created people to have different languages because of the insult of building a tower that could take them up to be with God. Okay, fine, works for me. I don't think that's the explanation, but it was a good attempt to explain it, right? Because I'm sure a lot of people back then were going, why did everybody speak different languages? What's the problem? So, but it's true that if everybody had spoke the same language throughout our history, going all the way back, can you imagine how much less violence we would have had, wars we would have had, and other problems? We would have been on the same page. And so fixing that problem is not trivial. AI is a part of that already, but the ultimate result is ear pods. You can probably get maybe have more than one set. Now, you can't get all the languages in the world in one set of earpods. You got a nice set, not the 20, and one is covering the European languages, and one is covering the Slavic language, whatever. One covers all the languages out of Africa, whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is that you're gold. So I get your pad pack there, go anywhere you want, slap them in, start chatting, telling jokes, whatever. That's where we are now. That's the upside of technology. Let's use it to fix the world as opposed to finding other ways to inflict havoc. Just saying.
Well, you're going to be a guest speaker at Contact in the Desert at the end of this month. What are you going to be talking about?
Well, I'm actually a producer as well. Of course, I'm working for the owners of the conference. I'm a producer as well. So I'm moderating 2 very important panels, 2 of the most prestigious that I've ever moderated. And you can see this going, the contactinthedesert.org. One of them is the UFO nukes panel, where we're going to have, the panel's going to be addressing the shutdown of our nuclear weapons by craft, not of our origin, on numerous occasions. And 3 of the nuclear shutdown witnesses, first-hand witnesses, will be on that panel. and we're going to have the disclosure panel addressing disclosure process and post-disclosure world. These are outstanding panels, and they are, one's on Friday, I think one's on Sunday. I'm also giving a lecture, I got a workshop. That's pretty much it for me. But the Contact in the Desert is the premier event. We're going to have some surprises, and I hope people will support it. It is a nonprofit now, so one could actually donate if you can't come. If you really want to support a conference like this, and you happen to be, well, you got into crypto early. What can I say? You can donate money to the conference and get a tax deduction now, because it's very difficult to actually turn profit on these things, particularly if you want to keep servicing the growing awareness of the public. And this is an expensive conference. There's no question about it, but it's fantastic. It's deluxe. So that's coming up. We have about 63 speakers. The hotel is booked. There will be maybe the odd cancellation, but we've got those covered. But there are plenty of hotels around Indian Wells and Palm Springs, much cheaper, I should say, as well. So you can still do that. And then we do have day passes for those that to make it easier for people to come over from the coast, from LA County, Orange County, and so forth, and enjoy the conference and drive back again. So we're hoping for a large turnout, but it's a pretty special conference. So I'll be involved in that and available to network with people while there. I generally park myself in the main area there in front of the bar and just drop in and say hello, but I will be dealing with all kinds of other stuff in the event. So I'll be kind of busy, but I'm looking forward to it. I was hoping we'd have disclosure before that event. No. It looks like we'll have the SKIF before that event. That's pretty cool. But a lot has happened. And I think the energy level is going to be through the roof. Interestingly enough, it was 2 years ago that at the Contact in the Desert, literally during that event, when the David Grush interview and articles dropped about him coming forward as a whistleblower on ET bodies. And that was, of course, the interview was Ross Coulthart, and the article was in a debrief with Leslie Kane and Ralph Blumenthal. That happened literally while the conference was underway, and a bunch of us are all in the room, we're watching it live and so forth. And that increased the energy. You kind of wish that had happened about a month before, right? But who knows what'll happen during the Contact in the Desert this year. Go to the site, check it out. It's a gorgeous website. It's well done. It's beautifully done. And I should mention that all the conference is being videoed, a lot of which will be available, again, to purchase afterwards. But all the panels, I believe, are going to be live. And so you can purchase a live stream of the panels, which is some of the best stuff. And so there is a live stream available for part of the conference, but all of the conference is going to be available afterwards. And of course, by purchasing that, you are supporting this event and ensuring that we could be even stronger next year and so forth. So that's coming up. Other things that are happening, as I say, I just learned about the Society for UAP Studies. Go to that website. It's impressive. If you are an academic with PhDs and whatever, but you've been shy about the issue because of the stigma. Stigma's gone. You may want to get on board here. Academia, of all the institutions in the country, academia has been the most reluctant, and it's just not gone there for various reasons. The media, believe me, they're all over it. They've written thousands of articles. As you see, the political class is coming around. The academics have always held back. That is changing. They're coming forward now in droves, and UAP Studies, Society of UAP Studies is the cutting edge of that. Check it out. And then also the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, which I formed, founded with Dan Harari, is making progress, is up to over 200 members. Check that out, HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. It is a networking nonprofit, meaning we don't make money from any deals, but we're making it easier for people in the film industry and people in the UAP research activist area to find each other, create deals, projects, get funding, whatever. And whenever that happens, good for them. And we're also holding some events. Again, we're just a networking entity trying to put two worlds together so that they can get the message right and even make some money, which God knows we need that. And that's the HollywoodDisclosureAlliance.org. If you are in the film industry and you're in the UFOs, you would UAPs, get in touch with me or Dan. Our contact information is on there. We would bring you in as a founding member. And if you are in the UAP arena and have been making contributions there, and you'd like to have more access to maybe get involved in projects, then get in touch with Dan or I. We could bring you as a UAP founding member. And that's, I hope I'm not leaving a promo out at this point. I don't think so. But that's about what I got right now.
Well, before we wrap it up, what can I get you on the record for? Or I guess I should say, when can I get you on the record for disclosure happening?
Well, no, I'm on the record. Here's the problem. When you're an activist and you are trying to get the government, the authority to change their policy about something in order to serve the common good, and it's a big deal. It's important, and you've got to marshal support. You simply don't have the luxury of going to the public or talking to the public and saying, look, this is what needs to happen. I have no idea when it's going to happen. It could take our lifetime. Who knows? But I need to get on board. No, you can't do that. You have to kind of project the possibilities and try to give a sense of when it could happen or not happen. And you need to err on the side of optimism. So over the years, I have talked about the fact that disclosure is inevitable, and I've talked about the fact that it looked really promising, that next year looked good, right, and gave the reasons and what have you. I'm not in the business of picking dates, that's for sure. You can't do that, but some do. And I mean, it's kind of a joke. It's kind of a joke, but everybody says you think disclosure's right around the corner, but it doesn't happen. Doesn't keep happening. There are reasons for that. We've been close, but then we get pushed back. Okay. So let me say this. Based upon everything I know, we are there. It could happen at any time. There is no real barrier at this point. The platform's built. The president is of a type that I don't think particularly has if he feels this in his self-interest and in the country's interest. So I think it can happen any time. That's me on the record. But let me also say this. There is a story about a man named Mel Fisher, who way back in the 70s, 1970s, so forth, he was a treasure ship hunter. He, his whole family and a crew, they just went out looking for treasure. All those ships that was sunk in the Gulf back in the day, particularly the Spanish treasure galleons. And a lot of people were looking for things like that, and they were into it. They did research, and they tried to find some clue, and then off they would go. And he found evidence regarding one of the most rich treasure ships ever, and it was the Spanish galleon Atoka. And so he went to find the Atoka with a couple of ships and the crew and everything else, and they're diving and looking and doing everything they had to do to find this treasure. It took 17 years before they found it. Along the way, his daughter and son-in-law unfortunately died when one of the ships capsized. But he kept going. And he became a legend in a sense. And this is all, you can check Google this, it's pretty easy. Every day when they would set out, Mel Fisher would say to the team, this is the day we're going to find it. Every single day for most of 16 years. They found it. And what they found, the treasure, was the equivalent of $1.3 billion today. Now, the state of Florida tried to get 25% of that for whatever reason. And they fought them in court, and they won the rights to the entire 1.3 billion, which was then split amongst the family and the dive crew. 16 years. The world needs Mel Fishers. People that are prepared to engage something relentlessly and try to keep people involved, because they're willing to say every day or every year, this is the day, this is the year. And somehow that helps you get there. But you have to take some ribbing, right? You have to take and you got to take it with, you got to take it with humor, right? So yeah, I'm the guy that's always saying disclosure is right around the corner, but one day it's actually going to be around the corner. And one of the reasons for that is that if you don't give people a target and a sense of the ability to achieve that, why should they invest money? Why should they put their time in? Why should they make any sacrifices to get there? And so that is one of the dilemmas of the activist. You try to do the best you can. I didn't think I'd be 30 years in and still talking like this. I didn't think the truth embargo could last this long, but it did. So again, when it comes, just send me nice emails, and just whatever. I'll be very gracious and say, hey, right. Now, it's not going to come with 1.3 billion. So in a way, it's not quite the same thing, but it will come with a post-disclosure world, and I'll tell you, that's worth 1.3 billion to me. So there you go. Jeff, it's been wonderful talking to you. Anytime you want to talk, you call me up last minute, and I'll update you. Certainly you want to get in touch if we have another hearing after that. So that could be maybe in June. So let me know.
Well, Steve, thank you for being our Mel Fisher and for being my guest.
Namaste.
Namaste. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.